Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show. Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by the best heart health supplement in the world, Cardio Miracle. So, you want to learn how to lower your resting heart rate, lower your blood pressure while improving your pump at the gym? Stick around. We'll talk about that later in today's episode, or simply scan that little QR code over my shoulder or head to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. Either way, you're going to see a little notification on your desktop saying you're shopping with Brian Nichols, so you'll know you're in the right place. But with that being said, let's move on to today's episode. We have a candidate running for Congress. Yes, it begins election season, and rumor is I'm one of his first stops here on the podcast circuit. So joining me here on the show, congressional candidate out of Texas, Daniel Betts. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to today's chat, Daniel. So first and foremost, do me a solid. Introduce yourself here to the Brian Nichols Show audience. Tell us a little bit about your story. How'd you get into the world of politics, all that and more?
Sure. Well, my name is Daniel Betts. I'm running for Congress here in Texas's 21st Congressional District. As far as background, I'm an attorney. I'm a trial attorney and specifically a criminal defense attorney. So I've been doing that for 15 years. I came down to Texas in 2007 to come here for law school. I went to UT Law, University of Texas School of Law for those who are not in Texas. And I've been practicing for 15 years in Central Texas. I try a lot of jury cases, so I get in front of people and try to do convincing on behalf of my clients. Oftentimes my clients don't give me a lot of cards to play with because I'm a criminal defense attorney. And so it's in that context that I do a lot of good negotiation and a lot of winning in trial. I don't think I've lost in trial in 10 years. So I want to bring that to the constituents of Texas 21, which is where I live. I live out in Dripping Springs in Hays County, which is in the district. I live there with my wife, Piper, and our three boys, Harvey, Malcolm, and Wallace. They are 8, 5, and 6 months, which I know makes me a crazy person for running for Congress, but I felt like God gave me this calling and was asking me if I could run away from it, and I couldn't. And so here we are. We homeschool our three boys, so we're very invested in them and their future. And it's because of how invested I am in their future that I'm willing to make this sacrifice now for them, because I think it's so important that we have people in Congress who are going to support President Trump's America First agenda and make sure that it's executed here in Texas so that it puts Texans first. And so that's what I want to do. There. Before I was a lawyer, I do actually have practical skills. I'm a University of Chicago trained organic chemist before that. And at home, I'm the president of my local church, Hope Lutheran Church. Been doing that for 3 years, and I was an elder before that. Those are the high points, I think.
Okay, I have two immediate follow-ups. You're a Texan.
Right.
Cowboys or Texans?
Well, I would say Cowboys if I had to pick. I'm not originally from Texas.
You do. If you want the host to like you, you do.
Well, then I got the right one. I didn't even know. That's funny. I have been historically a Steelers fan, man, and they've been having a tough set of years. And
so have we.
Yeah, no, I know it. Poor Cowboys fans. It feels like every year feels like y'all's year at the beginning of the season, and then Jerry Jones does something and it goes off the rails.
Yeah, 100%. Second question, not a follow-up to football, but a follow-up to your career path. Organic chemist to defense lawyer to running for Congress. That is a jump from one to the next to the next. So talk to me a little bit more about what was the transition from going from organic chemist to lawyer to start?
Yeah, I think people have the idea that, chemistry or law or science and law don't mix. But I think that's just because so many lawyers don't take that path. But as a chemist, I'm required. The scientific method is about reasoning, and it's about, logic and figuring out. And so that really aligns really well with the law in the first place.
Same church, different pew kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just a different perspective on the same thing. And so when I got to law school, everyone was like, "Oh, you must want to be a patent lawyer." And I was really young at the time. I was 21, and so I was like, "Yeah, I must want to be a patent lawyer. That's the plan." And so I did that whole thing in law school. I was the editor-in-chief of the Intellectual Property Law Journal at UT Law. But really, where I fell in love with the law is in the courtroom. And that's where, the more people you put me in front of, the more I shine, is what I found. And so I did all the mock trials and moot court competitions. Voir dire is how we say it in Texas. It's voir dire in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Jury selection, those competitions. And I realized that doing patent law, I would not get out into the courtroom for maybe like 7 years into my career, and that didn't sound fun. And so the economy was bad in 2010, and I fell into criminal law. And what I've realized in my life is that God calls me on these different paths, and I have a plan, and then he's like, "No, we're going to do this other thing." And so we thought we had a plan with having our youngest Wally, and we were like, "Well, I'd ran for district attorney last cycle in Travis County, and that was over." And we were like, "All right, I guess." Well, that was good, and I didn't expect to win. I knew I was taking a hit for the party and trying to get my name out there, because I expected to run for Chip Roy's seat when he left. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. But, you got to be dynamic because opportunity knocks and then it runs away. And this is a real great opportunity for me to serve the residents like myself of the hill country of Texas. I'm ready to step up.
So this is Chip Roy's seat?
That's correct. Chip is running for Attorney General of Texas. He announced on August 21st. So pretty late in the cycle. So we had to, pick up and run. And I'm really grateful that I had my consultants from last run, who we had a meeting that night, and I had the weekend to do discernment and prayer with my wife. And I did not expect her to say yes. And then she said yes. And I was like, "Oh boy, we're doing this."
That's one way God answers prayers, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your philosophy. I know you mentioned, very much in the spirit of an America First Donald Trump agenda. What does that look like tangibly from a policy perspective? And obviously, just for context, folks, we're recording here today on November 1st. So, I think this is when supposedly all these government SNAP benefits for 40 plus million Americans are supposed to expire with the government shutdown. We have the standoff right now in the Senate, where we have 55 Republicans in favor of passing the CR. 45 Democrats saying, "No, you need 60 in order to actually make it so." I didn't mean to rhyme that. That just kind of happened. But that's where we are today. That's kind of the context of Daniel's answer. So Daniel, kind of just help us better understand, who is Daniel and what does that look like in manifested policy?
Sure. America First can mean so many things. It's a platitude, and maybe it means American government first. Maybe it means American corporations first. I mean, the American citizens first. And for me, that's the citizens and the residents of TX21, my voters. And so where those things are in conflict, I want to go to where the locus of government power is derived, and that's from the citizens. I'm a states' rights guy. I believe that the federal government was supposed to be a very, very small entity. And I'm a constitutional lawyer. Like as a criminal defenses lawyer, I don't know that people think about this regularly, but I defend the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendments on a regular basis, like every day. And so I think of myself as a constitutional lawyer, and the Commerce Clause has gotten out of control. What the federal government is able to do is not at all what our founding fathers intended. And so I want to pare things back. So there's a lot of conservative ideas that I think some of my opponents or conservatives in general might say, we're in power right now. We need to use the power of the federal government to enact these. And, for example, yesterday, we were just talking about getting rid of the nuclear option. I don't think that, in the Senate, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to stay the course. We need to be the adults in the room and pare back regulations that are affecting, regular Americans in their daily life. The states should be where power is located. I don't ever want to put boots on the ground, and I don't want us to be the police force for the rest of the world. And so that's what I mean when I say America First there too. And I'd like to get to, I'm a free market economist guy. It's something that I got from the University of Chicago being there, even though I wasn't doing economics. And I think that when we have free trade, true free trade, that's where everybody wins. But we don't have that right now. And so the tariffs, I mean, they're hurting me. I know it. And you know it too. There's a lot of, areas where we're really starting to see it now, where maybe the corporations were shielding us from it before, but now it's coming home to rest. And I would like to get to fair trade, and so free trade. And so I don't want the tariffs to be an end. I don't think that is what it means to be America first. But if it gets us to deals, to free trade, I think that's good. And in as much as we can be not involved in foreign conflicts, I think that's better too. And so what is America first? I think America first is freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what it means to be American. And so we need to get back to liberty, especially as Republicans. Too oftentimes we, to enforce our conservative ideals, we act like the nanny state that I know we hate. And so I'm about personal freedom and liberty and informed consent about our decisions, and then living with the responsibilities or the consequences of our decisions.
You mentioned a few things there and kind of gave me some flashbacks to another great Texas congressman, the one great Ron Paul, who I think just had his 90th birthday. God bless him. Right. Sounds like you might be libertarian-ish. Is that fair to say?
I thought you might accuse me of that, especially given the din of your podcast. I don't think so. I think that libertarian is too uninvolved. And I think that there are ways, not to look. I'm a Christian. I look at Matthew 18. Matthew 18 says, like, when you see your brother sinning, you go to him and you say, hey, one-on-one, like, maybe this isn't the right thing for you. This isn't, you're flourishing. If he rejects you, you go. And so I do believe in community, and I do believe in the importance of community. And I don't think that, say, for example, separation of church and state is about protecting the government from the church. It's quite the opposite. And it's not in the Constitution either, frankly. You have to remember to mention that. So I think that libertarian is a little bit too hands-off. I do believe that, as a republic, what does it mean to be a republic? The government is supposed to be protecting our private property and our life. And those are the main things. So I won't own libertarian, but if you want to accuse me of it, well, I won't be too mad, I guess.
Hey, I know you have to please those Republican overlords, right? And that you had to reject those libertarians.
I would push back against that. No, I think that's you're absolutely right. So many Republicans feel like that, and it's not that I want to be obstructionist, and like the main thing, I like Chip Roy's ideas a lot. I absolutely do. And he's a firebrand for our cause and a fighter where oftentimes we don't have one. But as a criminal defense attorney, I think that I am just the nicest guy when it comes to negotiation. I'm really nice. I bring cookies and breakfast tacos. And we have breakfast tacos down here. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. But when I go to war, I'm a mean son of a bitch. I sometimes have to apologize to my juries in advance, for the person that I'm going to have to be when it is. So there's a place to be a fighter. Absolutely. But we also need to recognize how short time is, and how important it is to, pick the correct battles. And so I'm not there to please, but, I represent the citizens of Texas 21, not the Republican Party.
So when's the last time you really thought about your heart health? No, not after just a bad checkup or after seeing a loved one go through something scary, but really thought about it. And the reality is most people don't until it's too late. We chalk it up to fatigue, brain fog, or, just high blood pressure, or hey, maybe we're just getting older, or it's that dreaded stress. But the root cause might be something deeper. Your body's production of nitric oxide dropping off. That one molecule plays a critical role in keeping your arteries open, your blood pressure normal, and your cells oxygenated. And without enough of it, you're not performing at the best mentally or physically. And that's why I've been taking Cardio Miracle for 2 years now. It's a nitric oxide powerhouse packed with over 50 ingredients like organic beetroot, L-arginine, CoQ10, vitamin D3 that are all clinically proven to help support circulation, reduce inflammation, and supercharge your energy levels. It's not just heart support, it's whole body support. So if you're tired of feeling off, give your heart and your health the boost it needs. Just click the link in the show notes or scan that little QR code over my shoulder, or head to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS to start your journey today. Discount already applied. Just look for the note, "You're shopping with Brian Nichols" at checkout. One more time, that's cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. And now, let's get back to the show. I like that, though. I mean, this goes back to 2016 Trump. I guess it was 2016 Trump. And it was the South Carolina debate. And this was the Jeb Bush, your brother lied us into Iraq moment, right? But before that, another part of that debate was when Trump was calling out the audience saying, you know, who's all over here? These are all the donors, right? These are all the GOP donors. That's how they got here, right? And they're all booing. He goes, yeah, they're booing because I'm right. And that was, I think for a lot of folks, that was a moment where Trump earned a lot of favor because it was calling out the system, right? And I'm a little, I have my own mixed opinions on how Trump has been doing his second term. I think there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of question marks. But I would say one of the things that Trump has done effectively, by and large, at least, you know, I'd say in terms of putting people like Jay Bhattacharya, for example, over in I think it's the NIH, and folks like RFK Jr. over at HHS, and you know, Tulsi Gabbard over at oh my goodness, what's the heck's her position? It's in National Intelligence,
right? Director of National Intelligence.
Thank you. Yes, her. But like folks like that, it tells me that Trump is willing to look more at the outsiders versus the kind of the old establishment that did, you know, the John Boltons of the world, right? Like,
because the ideas are what matter, not the people, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess my question would be though, like when you look at someone like a Donald Trump, I mean, are there areas that you do find that you disagree with him though? I mean, America First obviously is being led by a person, but like, as you mentioned, there are things it stands for, like non-interventionism and stuff like that. So I guess just help me understand, are there areas where you've found your personal values maybe differing a little bit with the president currently?
Sure. So I should lead by saying I'm a 6-time Trump voter. I am a big Donald Trump supporter. And when he walked down the escalator, like I knew he was going to be my next president. My friends made fun of me. They're like, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" You know? And I was like, I can see it. I know I'm a communicator. I know, like, he talks straight. He doesn't, I may not always agree with him, and I don't always agree with him, but I know what's on his mind. He's not sticking his finger in the wind to see, you know, which way the wind is blowing. And I respect the hell out of that. And so that's what it means to be a leader. And as a leader in an executive position, that's what I want. I don't want somebody who I necessarily will agree with at all times. And I really respect the heck out of it when he says something that I don't agree with, because then I know that he's not bullshitting me on the other stuff. It's a little bit different for me as a representative. I still always, you know, like I won't shy away from my constituents. Like I'll talk about Ukraine and how I might differ with, you know, a lot of Republicans on what I think about Ukraine and how we should handle it. And maybe that's something that I can point to, you know, with Donald Trump, if you want to talk about more of that. It's more than just a simple one-off answer. So we'd have to get into it. Yeah, I'm a big Donald Trump supporter. My friends got me a Donald Trump piñata for my birthday that year. And I was just like, well, I don't know, guys. And they didn't believe me until 8 p.m. on election night. And then it all became clear. Donald Trump is here because of, you know, he's got his finger on the pulse of the American people. And he's here because of all the things that we've seen in our politics before. And, you know, I'm not an economist myself in the sense of having been trained that way, but I like economics a lot. And Thomas Sowell is my, you know, favorite living economist. And Thomas Sowell says, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. And so I recognize in a leader that, you know, and I talk about, not to get too wonky, but I don't know if you've ever heard of Arrow's impossibility theorem. It talks about the impossibility of being able to order the preferences of more than two people in order to make everybody happy. So everybody's not going to be happy. And I am disappointed when Republicans demand purity tests because then that is exactly how we get the radicalness on both sides of the equation. And I think social media is pretty complicit in it too, in driving it. And those two factors together have pushed us so far. But I never seek echo chambers. I always want to be talking to people who differ with me, because I recognize, I always cite this MIT study that says when you have a conversation with someone, there is no way for you to not get their ideas on you and for you to get your ideas on them. And that's what it means to have a conversation, and a meeting of the minds. And so that's what I want to do, is have more conversations, because frankly, I think conservative ideas are better. And I think that the reason that I know a lot of people debate about the reason they shot Charlie Kirk is because they don't want to have a conversation anymore. I remember when I was in college and, the hippies on campus were like, hey man, we just want to have a conversation. It ain't like that anymore. And I think it's so important because it's like Charlie said, what happens in a marriage when you stop talking? You have a divorce. And what happens in a country when you stop talking? You have a civil war. And it is so important for us to keep talking with the people that we disagree with. And so I'm not looking to go in there and compromise my core values as a conservative, but you have to have empathy. You have to understand what the other person thinks and why they think it. Because just assuming that they're a bad actor from the get-go is not the way to go. I'll cite a quote that I love to talk about. Alexander Solzhenitsyn says that the line between good and evil passes through every human heart, and that even in the darkest of hearts, the bridgehead of good remains. We have to remember that about our fellow Americans, and that what unites us is still greater than what divides us.
So based on your answer, I think I know the answer to my next question, but I'm going to ask it because I'm curious. Speaking of divorce, so back probably 2 years ago or so, I had Daniel Miller on the show from Texas, and we talked about Texas leaving the union and national divorce and all that kind of fun stuff. I know you mentioned earlier, you're very much a federalist at heart. So what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, the Texas nationalist movement is, I think, what you're saying. It's funny, yeah. Daniel Miller, I forget the name. I don't know it in that sense. He's my neighbor down the street. He's a firefighter. But
you're like, you talk to my neighbor? What? No. we really go deep in our investigative prep before these shows.
That's
here,
Daniel. True, right? Yeah, I was like, wow. So Texas is like, it's peak America, I think. No offense to Indiana, which has its own brand too. But
none taken.
It would be, we owe it to the rest of the country to stay in it and show them what true freedom can mean and can be. And it's tough to get down to. When I moved to Texas in 2007, I did not intend to stay. I didn't expect to. And it got its hooks in me so fast. And Texas is infectious. We could think that the country is lost and we could go in and turtle and go in on ourselves. In Texas, in a lot of ways, we got our own independent power grid. I think we could do it, but I don't think that it would be the right thing to do, especially as Christians. And we live in a Christian nation. And I think that we have to, not compromise ourselves. But I think as Texans, especially every Texan I know, is I'm not worried about them getting turned into a Californian or something like that. And so I get where the instinct comes from. It's protective. It's because the thing that we have is so damn special, and we don't want to see it changed. And so I am wholeheartedly with them on that front. But I think that being in the union, being in this union, this is something we're coming up on. And I didn't even realize until I was running for a month or so that I will have the opportunity to be elected in the quarter millennia of this great experiment in liberty. And that just it's giving me chills down my spine right now as I say it. That's an amazing thing. And yeah, there are some difficult times right now, but if you're a student of history, it's always been difficult, and if you've ever been married, it's never easy, but that doesn't mean that it's time to put it down. It means it's time to lean in. And that's what I want to do. Lean in.
So you're a millennial, and you look at Congress and pretty much everywhere in our government, and lots of non-millennials, right? It's a lot of old folks. I saw this chart, and it was going through some of the oldest folks in the Senate or just in the House in general, and it's like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Grassley, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell. These literal dinosaurs. And I'm not trying to be disparaging, but just you're over the age of 80. I'm sorry. It's time to start like considering like, hey, if you're in office and your seat's expiring, I think it's time to just chill. Go be grandma, right? Like you don't need to be governing like Dianne Feinstein literally up until the day you die. And oh, by the way, the vote that last vote before
Remember
she
that
passed
congressman
away.
who was in a memory facility? Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I forget her name, but come on.
The Dianne, do you remember the Dianne Feinstein clip where her aide literally had to tell her like, you're voting yes for this, right? Because she had no idea what she was voting for. She was just wheeled in there, push the button, yes or no, and she had no idea. And it's like, I see that, and there's this
much bigger problem, with wonks running things and unelected people in the administrative
100%.
state.
This was the Biden administration to a T, right? Exactly. It was all the behind the snes auto pen folks who were making things
exactly
happen.
What I was going to say.
So, I mean, you're bringing this millennial energy, and for better or for worse, we've heard it on both sides. I've seen it. I know you've seen the other side of the millennials they are much more progressive in nature. But I would say there's an overarching millennial ethos of just like, yep, things are messed up, but it's our turn. Try to fix it, right? I feel that's just the collective, like, okay, it's our turn. But the boomer generation just seems to kind of not want to step back. So talk to me about what you think you're going to be experiencing going into Congress, assuming you are elected in 2026. Like, what would that look like, bringing that millennial energy and having to confront some of the more rigid boomers who just are stuck in yesteryear?
Yeah, I mean, there's this thing that I learned in evangelism, and it's how you have a relationship with someone. And I think that maybe it's always so easy to assume the worst about someone and assume that they're just in it self-interestedly. But I do believe that those leaders do love our country, and they're just worried that we millennials aren't up to the task. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because they never let us be up to the task, or, less and less. But so I want to prove to them that I see them, and that it's okay to pass the torch, and that as bad as it's been, because I've seen it firsthand from COVID to the financial crisis when I left law school, to 9/11, all of it, that has been the defining experience. I mean, 9/11 is what it means to be a millennial. And where you were when that happened, that is the thing that defines you in the public square. I am not eyes closed. I am more eyes open than I think that they can realize. And I'm ready for it. And so back to what I said about evangelism, like, to shore up a relationship with someone, there's 4 things that you need to do. You need adoration, contrition, thankfulness, and supplication. And so those are the ways that, I come to my jurors. Those are the ways that I teach my most difficult clients to repair their relationships with their family and friends. And so I'm a relationships guy. And so I think that I need to get in there. And what is charisma? Charisma is 2 things. Charisma is warmth and competence. And so I need to communicate to them competence, because I think that the reason that they don't want to let go of the reins of power is not just for self-aggrandizing reasons, not just for, but because, they're at that stage, you get to that 3rd stage of your life. They talk about, the different stages being like, sex, money, and then bowels. They're at the bowels stage. They're thinking about, what's going to be left of their legacy. And they don't want it to be put in the hands of someone who will destroy it and dismantle it. And I'm not saying that I'm going in there to just ossify the things that they've done, because I think that a lot of those things are not right for our country. But I want them to have trust that I'm not just going to go in and, because there's always shockwaves that get spread through things when you make big changes. And that's not to say that that's a reason not to make big changes, but I think we need to convince them that we're competent to handle it. And man, you didn't even mention Gen X. Poor Gen X, they just got jumped over.
I know they did. Well, and I'm gonna be, I'll be a little tough on Gen X. It seems like Gen X really hasn't tried to push forward to like take the reins. I mean, you look at the number of boomers relative to even the number of Gen X in Congress, and it is kind of jaw dropping that there are even that number of folks who are in that kind of like, that late 40s, early 50s kind of range, that they just get completely bypassed and they don't really put in the effort, it feels like. And by the way, I just want to go back to the millennials and the Gen Zers I'll point at, because I think there is a collective, be it, be it deserve it or not, this belief, Daniel, that the boomers caused a lot of the problems we have today, right? You look at in the boomers or the generation prior with going to the New Deal and Social Security and all of the Medicare and the Medicaid,
the destruction of the Commerce Clause is what I would say. But yeah,
all of that, right? But like you look at Gen Z and the millennials, I think there is a lot of animosity towards those folks, and a lot of like those young voters saying, you know what? I get it. Like they're on their way out, but frankly, I don't care what they have to say. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying there is a lot of young folk who believe that.
I'll say it is wrong. And I've felt that when I was younger too, that generational war. There's so many different ways to divide us. And when you divide us, that makes us controllable no matter what it is. And one of my, favorite political scientist, Carl Schmitt, says, like give someone an enemy. That's how you unite a people. But we're uniting them in these little groups that make us controllable, and it's not. So, and back to I gotta, stand up for my Gen X, brethren, because look at this last election. They won this election for us, and they were so much stronger conservatives than I had ever realized. And I feel for the things that they've gone through and the voice that they haven't had. And yeah, I'm a millennial. I'm a little bit at the upper end. Some people have, I'm definitely not Gen X. I was born in 1985. But I think that it's too easy to fall into those traps. And I'm hopeful that more voters don't. And I think that Gen Z gets painted with this huge broad brush too. I employ a lot of Gen Z people in my office, my small law firm here, and they are so much more winnable. That this country is not lost. If I thought this country was just lost, I don't think that I would have the wherewithal to be doing this, but we have a bright future ahead of us, and we just got to get there.
So what do you say to those Gen Zers or those millennials who are very, I guess they're very accusatory of how things are towards boomers? Like, I hear you, like we shouldn't do that, but there's that sentiment exists. So What would you say to those folks who they're like, but Daniel, I still believe this.
I still believe it is exactly the right thing. Yeah. So what I would say is I was there. I understand where you're coming from. And I remember having that pure, unmitigated passion that felt like it was directed at exactly where it needed to be directed. And we need your passion. Don't ever let go of that passion, but recognize that, things may be a little bit more nuanced than you've been led to believe so far. And please put your trust in me that I do see you and that I will, I'm never going to lie to you about what my positions are. I'm never going to sugarcoat it, even if that means losing you as a voter, because I'd rather that you have a leader, because I think I'm going to win. And so I do think I'm going to be their next representative. And so I want them to trust me when they don't agree with me. And so I think that that's the way to approach it. Is there are good parts about that, and the passion is it. And it is infectious and it is amazing. And I'm so excited that we have, so much more of a percentage of Gen Z than we did millennials in our camp, because they've seen and it's not even just liberal conservative. They've seen what the power of government can do. That's what drives you into the conservative camp. Mm-hmm. Conservative as a liberal has been mugged by reality. What's the old mantra? If you're young and you're conservative, you don't have a heart. And if you're old and liberal, you don't have a mind. And so we just need to educate them without being patronizing. We need to, get them there. But the ones that have the heart and they're already on our side, wow, yeah, heck yes. I'm all about it.
All about it. Now, well, how about this? I know we're at time, so I'll start my final thoughts. I have a question to tee up before I turn things over to you, and then you can bring us home. Sound fair?
Sure. Sounds great.
Rock and roll. Daniel, first of all, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
One of the things I really appreciate as a host doing 1,000+ episodes at this point is that I get to meet the next leaders, the next thinkers, the next entrepreneurs, the next business leaders of our future. I mean, peek behind the curtain. You jumped into the studio as I was wrapping up a conversation with a world-renowned expert in the business space, right? Like the discrepancy of folks I get to talk to is really cool. But one of the things I always want to focus on is the tangible value of an outcome that the guests I bring on the show try to bring to the table. And if they don't, I will call them out, right? And what you talked about today was tangibly, like, it's real. It's not these pie in the sky things that Zoram Mandani is talking about, where it's free busing, we're gonna all the ice cream and lollipops kind of stuff, just giving it everything to everybody as though he just has this magic wand, and it just doesn't exist. And that part, it drives me crazy. But when you talk about like actionable things that we can start to prioritize today, that's what I care about. That's what my audience cares about, because we're so, and I think this is maybe a millennial Gen Z thing too. We are so tired of these platitudinous, just like pie in the sky, right? Like, just give me something real. Stop talking about like, we're gonna get rid of poverty and get rid of homelessness in California while we've spent billions of dollars. It's like, show me results. Show me something of value.
The thing with liberals is they always think that the reason their program isn't working is Republicans didn't let them throw enough money at it. Come on, man.
Go talk to California. Yeah. All right. My last question before I turn things over to you is, if you get elected, Daniel, will you do us a favor? And will you get this? Absolutely. Oh, come on. Is it not going to share? Oh, no. Hold on here. Now you're here. I'm going to edit this part out here.
Well, I'm waiting with bated breath.
I know you should be, because it's fun here. Stop sharing.
This is the gotcha moment.
Yeah. No. If you win election, will you promise us you will wear this mustache again?
Oh my goodness. All my push cards still have the mustache on it. My mom was the first one to say, you don't look congressional. You got to get rid of that. I was like, Mom, come on. So then I started listening to my constituents who were telling me, I really like what you're saying, but that thing on your face is distracting from it. And, I used to have a full beard before that. And so the mustache was a step down. And I'm just getting used to my face without it. I actually thought, this was the day after Halloween, I thought about getting myself some glasses and a hat and coming on the show as you. I can't make that promise, and firefighters really get upset about that, especially when I
can imagine. Firefighters and detectives alike.
Yeah, because they definitely got it. But no, the reason I got rid of it is because I listened to my constituents, despite how much I liked that mustache, and my wife liked that mustache. My constituents, their opinions matter to me. And that's the most hard-hitting question I think I've ever gotten.
There you go, man. Awesome. Well, Daniel, bring us home. Where can folks go ahead, learn more about your campaign if they want to support the campaign? And of course, where can folks go ahead and continue the conversation, social media, they want to reach out, email, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so my website is www.betsfortexas.com. That's BETTSFORTEXAS. You can follow me on all the socials at betsfortexas.com. Donations. I wish that this weren't the type of endeavor that required dollars to get eyeballs on it, but it does, and it is. And, we have raised the most out of any of the candidates in terms of individual dollars. We raised over $110,000 in the first 3 weeks of the campaign. And I am ever grateful to the donors, and like I said, they're not corporate donors. They're people who care about this, and who I am very grateful to have been able to touch their heart. And so if you feel like, and I want you to pray about it too, and I'm talking not to you, I'm talking to your viewers. I want you to pray about it and really discern whether or not I am the candidate who will represent you, even if you're not in Texas, because this is a national impact office. And, I really think that I have a lot to offer, not just to the Hill Country, not just to Texas, but to the country. And I'm ready to make that sacrifice for the country. I remember exactly where I was when the July 4th floods hit in central Texas. I had been involved in a car accident that morning. The roads had washed out, something I know Texans are all too familiar with. And when I got home that evening and was able to kiss my 3 beautiful boys goodnight, I turned on the news and I discovered that not everyone was going to be so lucky. Over 135 lives were lost that day. Help came too little, too late, and I remember thinking there are real consequences when legislators fail to prioritize the needs of the people they represent. Sometimes deadly consequences. That moment changed me. It reminded me that public service isn't about talking points. It's about showing up for people when it matters most. I have one goal today, and that's to prove to you that my platform is not only America first, but that I will execute it while putting Texans first. And if you believe in that mission, I'm asking you for your trust, for your support, and for your vote. My name is Daniel Betts, and as a resident of District 21, this story is just one of many that have motivated me to run to be our next representative. When I am standing in the halls of Congress, I will fight for you every single day to make sure that the needs of Texans are heard and met. President Trump has seen win after win. His America First agenda is working, and the American people can feel it. And as the father of 3 young boys whose future depends on the success of that agenda, you will have no stronger champion in Congress than me, and President Trump will have no greater ally. As a trial attorney, I am used to the fight. We will secure our border to stop the flow of drugs and violence. We will dismantle the institution of abortion by eliminating its incentives. We will restore American energy dominance and stabilize our grid safely. And we will stand firm in trade, showing the world that America will never again be taken advantage of. That is the America I want to raise my boys in. That is the America I remember. That is the America I will fight for, and that is the America of the American dream. So today, I'm asking you to take a bet on Daniel Betts, because I promise you, a bet on Betts will pay out big. Thank you.
Betts for Texas, Daniel Betts. Thank you for joining us here on the Brian Nichols Show. We'll include all your links there in the show notes. And folks, by the way, if you enjoyed today's episode, you know the drill.
Thanks
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Give it a share. When you do, tag yours truly at B. Nichols Liberty. Podcast and video versions of the show, you can head over to YouTube, Rumble. You can go to X, Facebook, wherever it is you get video content, podcast content, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Podcast Addict. You can find the Brian Nichols Show. Hit that subscribe button. We have a brand new episode airing every Monday, every Thursday, every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So make sure, of course, when you hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell so you don't miss a single time we have a brand new episode go live. And one final ask, and that is, again, if you like the show, go ahead and support us by supporting the folks who support us, like our awesome studio sponsor here, Cardio Miracle. Or if you want to make a one-time donation, head to briannicholsshow.com/donate, and you can do so over there. Daniel, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us today, audience member. With that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Daniel Betts. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.
If you're a small business owner and your phone contract is coming up for renewal, ask your provider if you can just go month to month. Watch what happens. They'll stammer, they'll delay, or straight up dodge the question. Why? Because they don't want to earn your business. They want to lock it up. And that's why I'm such a fan of Level 365. They don't play the contract game. Everything's month to month. No tricks, no traps. If they're not delivering, you can walk. But here's the kicker. You won't want to. Phones that actually serve you, not hold you hostage. That's Level 365.